Hello friends, so in this video we're going to be making a to-do app on React. So this app will be having a list of to-dos where you can change the status of a to-do, or you can delete a to-do, or you can add a to-do using a dialog. Let's get started. I'm going to be using Create Test React app for this tutorial. You can learn more about Create Test React app on the link below. So we will write create test react app, and the name of the app will be to do app. So this create test react app creates a React template. So it will make few of the files that we need for the app. So let's get inside to do app. We have our to do app. So we have this package.json here, webpack config. And inside the source, we have this index.html, index.js, main.js, and main.scss. Let's write npm I to install all the packages defined inside this package.json file. I will be creating a few folder and files. You can just follow me. And I will just move this main.js inside this to do only. Inside this main, I will be making this as header. Let's write this to do home. And for now, let's return an empty div. Similarly, inside this to-do box, this will also return an empty div. And we're gonna be wrapping this. So let's write our to-do.js. We're gonna be adding here a few default to-dos. So inside this main to this to-do home, we're gonna be passing to-dos. So this to-do home will be receiving this to-dos as props. I can just write here to-dos. Here I'm going to be using a state. To-do value will be initialized with this to-dos. So next I will be making this to-do element that will just map through this to-do value and will create this to-do box. So this to-do box will be passed individual to-do item and an index. Let's write this to-do box. Let's add a class name, and inside this we're going to be writing inside this, let's write a class name, and inside this we're going to be having this to do element. So let's run and test it. So I will be writing npm run start here to start this app. It will be running in localhost 8080. So here we can see we have this to do header and list of to do that we defined in todos.js. So let's add few style. So let's begin with main.js. So here we have this header. So I will be adding header class inside this main.scss. So this will be the header class inside this main. So inside this to do home, I will be creating a class called container. Next, inside this to do box, we have just this to do box. So I will be writing and I will be adding this all styles here. So we have this to do setup and let's run and see. Our UI looks a bit better. So let's add status of the to do here because as we remember from this to-dos.js, so this too has status false and this is true. So let's add, I'll be just writing a div class name. So here we will just have a check of to-do.status. If it is true, we're going to be adding a style called done, or else it will be just empty. So let's add the style inside this to-do box. Now it is showing this to-do is done and this both are remaining. So let's add click functionality to change the status of to-do. So inside this to-do home to this to-do box, we're gonna be passing another props called update to-do, and we're gonna be making this update to-do function here. So it will be receiving an index from to-do box, and it will just create a new to-do value, and it will remove that particular value from the index, and will be adding a new to-do value with status opposite to what it was, and it will be just update the to-do value to this new to-do value. So let's use this inside this to-do box. So inside this props, it will be receiving this update to-do as well. So here, whenever this to-do box is clicked, we're going to be calling a update handler function. So we're going to be defining here update handler function. So this function will just call this update to do and will pass it the index. Let's just run and test it. We can see the status is changed whenever a to do is clicked. Let's add a remove button here. So again to this to do box, we're going to be passing another props called remove to do. So we're going to be making this function here. So this remove to do will just remove the to do from that particular index and will update the to do value. So let's write this to do value inside this to do box. So inside this, we will be having a remove button, and on click, it will be calling a remove handler function. So let's write this remove handler function here. So this remove handler function will be receiving an event from this button, and it will just stop the propagation of the event because we don't want that whenever this button is clicked, this div should also listen to that event. So we're going to be passing this index to this remove to do. So let's add this remove in this style. So we'll have this style inside this to do box. So now we have this remove working. So let's just run and test it. So now we can see we have this button here to remove a to do. So we can change the status. We can remove a to do from the list. Now let's add a button to add a new to do. So inside this to do home, I'm going to be adding a button inside this wrapper. So here I will be adding this button with class name add button. So let's add this button inside our SCSS file. So let's just run and test it. So here we can see we have our add button but it doesn't work. So we have our to do where we can change the status of a to do, we can remove item, and we have this add button. So that was it in the first part of this tutorial. In the second part, we're going to be adding functionality to this add button, where whenever this add button will be clicked, a dialog will open up, and there you can add the to do to this to do list. So thank you guys.